Hey guys, it's Di from BeingMommywithStyle, and today we're going to do a late night Vlogmas vlog. So it is after work and I'm in my office, and I thought I would do a chatty video today talking about transitioning to going back to work after being a stay-at-home mom. I've been saying I was going to do this video forever, and I don't think I've ever gotten around to it, so I thought, no better time than the present, and let's do it as a part of Vlogmas. So I'm sitting here with my bubbly, which I highly recommend. We've been drinking this in strawberry and mango, and I thought I would sit down real quick and do a Vlogmas vlog. So the only thing is Penguin just came up to the door. So out of all the offices that I've had, in Illinois, my office was upstairs. In Michigan, my office was downstairs, and it was great because it was like tucked around a little corner, and there was a bathroom down there, and I could go just down to my office and get filming done and do whatever. And then this office, it's got glass doors, in case you don't remember from the house tour or wherever you would have seen it. And so people will come up to the doors and like press their noses against the door. So that's what the dog just did. He like came and pressed his nose against the door. Slightly more distracting than all the other places, but that's okay. So we're rolling with it. Anyhow, so it is a work day and I'm home from work tonight, and so I wanted to talk a little bit more about this transitioning back to work, talk a little bit about this because I know when I initially had gone back to work, people had said like, you know, fill us in and, you know, any pointers that you have, and I feel like I, you know, kind of gave like little bits and pieces in vlogs, but I never kind of fully circled back around and really just made a dedicated video talking about it. So at this point, I've been back to work for 2.5 years, almost 3 years. Full time after being a stay-at-home mom for 7 years. So before I was a stay-at-home mom, I had a number of different jobs. Obviously, I was a competitive dancer and I had my own dance studio for a while. My husband and I started moving around for his job because he started doing vehicle launches very early on in his career, which involves a lot of moving, about every 18 months to 2 years, as you guys have seen in our vlogs. So I had a dance studio, and then I sold that because I knew that we were going to be moving a lot more, which turned out to be a very good thing that I did because I took a full-time job, and not too long after that we ended up having to do the first move for his job, and there was a number of moves after that. All said and done, we have moved 10 times in 13 years of marriage. There's our tally. So if you guys have like tried to figure out how many times we moved, that is the total for the number of years that we're married. We are trying to slow down the moving quite a bit because it wears on you. It's kind of weird. It's like a duality of like your internal clock says, oh, it's been like 1.5 to 2 years, it's time to move, but it wears on you and you want the kids to be settled. So this move was definitely great for that, to get settled and get my husband into a better like settled position where he wasn't constantly having to travel and do a lot of international travel. So all around, that's been really, really good. It's definitely slowed down our pace and changed that kind of like lifestyle for us as well. So I always kind of knew that I wanted to go back to work full time after the kids were in school. And so Natalie hit kindergarten, and not too long after that, about 4 or 5 months after she went to kindergarten, I got my first full-time position. And so I would think that there's definitely a transition period. That first Christmas was rough because I went back to work right before Christmas. And of course I had this rhythm and this cadence that I had developed over 7 years of like, you know, wrapping packages during the day when they are at preschool, and you just have more time, even though I know it feels like you don't have more time. And I'm not saying that as a slight, but you do have more time to yourself when you're not working full time. So things like this, like sitting down and doing a video, I wasn't used to having everyone home all the time. So figuring out when to wrap packages, when to do Christmas cards, it was definitely a balance. And I think for my situation, because I was doing YouTube and my editing time is at night, typically after they're in bed, I had that to work with as well. So that was normally a time when I guess most people could have done their wrapping or cards then, but I was trying to balance all of that. So I'm not gonna lie, the first year was definitely a balancing act, and I felt like Christmas ran me over that first year. I was not prepared, and I felt like I just wasn't able to do as much as we normally could, and I think I ordered most of their packages on Amazon. I'm happy to say that that has now settled out because I figured out a different rhythm and I figured out a system that works for me. I still do a lot of ordering online, and the packages aren't wrapped yet. I don't wrap them as early, but we have the dog now, so I probably wouldn't have wrapped them yet anyways, because I will wrap them probably about a week before Christmas and put it underneath the tree. But anyhow, so things like that were definitely a transition. Being used to being gone during the day was a bit of a transition, although I was really looking forward to being around adults and having an adult conversation, quite frankly. That is the most rewarding part of going back to work. I will absolutely say, like, being with other people and working on projects together, working to complete projects together is definitely the highlight, and that's the big reason why I always knew I wanted to go back to work, because I really just crave that aspect of working with people that I unfortunately can't really get working on my own or even just doing YouTube or whatever. So that was definitely a rewarding part. And the interesting thing is, even though I was a stay-at-home mom for 7 years, you get used to quite quickly adult conversation and, you know, being able to do things at a certain pace and not having to listen to kid music all the time. So I did notice that my patience level did drop after I went back to work, and I really wasn't anticipating that. So that is one thing that I'll say is, like, give yourself grace, especially when you're transitioning. One, getting used to your new schedule, but also give yourself grace as far as you may have an attitude change, and that's okay. And I don't mean like attitude in a negative way. Like, my patience level for dealing with kid shenanigans definitely went down to the point where I was like, holy cow, how in the world was I dealing with this all day long? It's definitely interesting kind of going back into that adult life and not dealing with kid stuff all day long, where you kind of have to relearn a balance there for certain. But you figure it out. And so now I'm happy to say I think we're really at a happy medium right now. So I've gotten my job settled out. I really was in a place where the company I was at, they're going through a lot of changes and they're having some issues, and just I felt like it was not long term where I needed to be or wanted to be any longer. And so when I moved over to where I am now, just everything just fell into place. It just felt right. And so I have a lot less stress now. My schedule is really great, and I feel like my husband and I are in this really great kind of like meshing place of actually being able to kind of work together and kind of, kind of churn through the schedule. And I feel like this next upcoming year, because this past year it was kind of half and half. I worked at the other place at the beginning of the year, and I started working here at the end of the year. So I feel like next year is going to be our first like really even kill. I think that if you find the right spot for you, you find a place where you feel purpose and you feel appreciated and you feel like the people around you are engaged in the same mission, I think that it is very rewarding, obviously, to go back to work. For, a lot of people, a more natural transition may be to do like a part-time and then to full-time. And I think there's a lot of companies that are open to that now. I'm like looking because I'm waiting for someone to come up to the door. I think there's a lot of companies that are open to that now. Actually, the company that I'm at now, if I wanted to work full-time, I can't, well, I am working full-time. I work full-time, part-time. You can kind of make that choice, and they're very ebb and flow about it. The company that I was at previously, it was like you work full-time or you're not dedicated to the company if you're not working 50 to 60 hours a week, which to me I would say is a red flag. Because there are definitely times and projects and times of the year where you do obviously need to put that extra amount of hours and effort in, but don't let people make you think that all companies will use you like that, because that's not necessarily the case. I can say that with confidence now. And so very flexible schedule, very flexible ability to go on vacations and things like that. And the company I work for is very supportive of professional development, which I really appreciate. So those are some of the qualities of, like what I was looking for in a company when I went back to work. But I would say the biggest things that you should do if you're looking to go back to work and you're transitioning from being a stay-at-home mom is really kind of sit and think about what your ideal picture would be, 5-10 years down the line. And then maybe think about it in baby steps. So what is the step in the first year I can take to work towards that? What's the step I can take year 2, year 3? And what does that kind of like long-term picture look like? So for me, I want to be in marketing. I want to work at a larger company. So this move over that I just took was checking boxes to work towards getting to that larger company setting that I had wanted to work in for a while, quite frankly. I'd worked in small companies for a majority of my life, and I wanted that larger company setting. So I would look at, you know, what your ultimate goal is in your career, and then figure out, well, okay, that may not definitely obviously be where you start, but what kind of baby steps can I take from year to year to work towards that ultimate goal of where you want to end up in your career from there. I also highly recommend professional development. I feel like it's been really key in helping me to not only sort out what goals I have for myself and my why. Start With Why by Simon Sinek is a great book to start with if you have not read that. But I highly recommend personal development because it really helps you hone in on what skills are your strengths, what skills you can work on, and what skills you can best bring to a team. So I'm very thankful for the first job that I launched out of, you know, being a stay-at-home mom, because from that, I learned that I really enjoy mentoring. And so I really wanted to be in positions where I can mentor and be some sort of leader in some aspect. And so from that, I was able to take that's something that I want to try to keep in positions going forwards. I enjoy the mentoring part, and really working isolated or alone is not really enjoyable to me. I've learned that very quickly. So I really enjoy and appreciate that team setting. So sometimes you may need to find out what's changed about yourself, because you may not be exactly the same person you were after you have kids and you've stayed at home for a while that you were before you had kids and before you stayed at home. You may have developed new interests. You may have new strengths. You may have new dislikes. So it takes some time to sort through all that and really find, you know, your new person and your ultimate goals from there. So hopefully some of this has been helpful. I find that, you know, writing things out is immensely helpful. I go through little notepads like this like crazy, just with notes and planning out. But even if you have, I would show you, but it's sitting underneath the camera right now, just a really thin, like just calendar, month at a glance calendar. Write yourself some goals in there. So if you're transitioning to go back to work, you know, say you're looking for jobs, say you want to send out X amount of resumes per week, or you want to make X amount of contacts per week. You want to follow up at X amount of companies per week. You know, make some goals and set some goals, and then really write down all of those so you can reflect on them and come back to them later and see if they still resonate with you or not. And don't be afraid to scratch it out. If it doesn't resonate with you anymore or something changes, scratch it out and move on. That is another thing that I think I've realized very much as I've gotten older, is if something doesn't work for you, don't put up with any bullshit to try to make it work. Just move on. That's the best advice that I could really give going back to the working world, is find something that makes you feel appreciated, that you love, and that you enjoy getting up every day to go do. And I think the rest just kind of falls into place. So don't stress about what it's going to look like, car line, pickup, drop off, because that all falls into place. It really does work itself out. And I mean, as far as having us both working, really the only pain point there are those one-off days. Those are the only days. Like the random, like President's Day, like you get one day off in the middle of the week. Luckily, our district does not do half days. But if we did, that would drive me nuts as well. Those are really the only pain points, having two working parents, where you get to those days and you're like, oh, this is so much easier when I'm a stay-at-home parent, because you don't have to worry about what you're gonna do there. Luckily, a lot of the places around here are like after school labs place, and even the Rocket Center. The girls went over to the Rocket Center on Veterans Day and did a little, you know, like explorer camp thing, and they were right there at my work. So I was able to pick them up and drop them off, and they had fun all day long. So it worked out. So there are usually a lot of options that you can do to kind of mitigate those things. I'd say that's really the biggest pain point at this point, because I've gotten everything like Christmas and laundry and housework and blah, blah, blah sorted out. It's really those one-off days from school that are still the annoying, like, oh, we have to deal with this again. But it all works out. So let me know if you have any questions down below, and I'm gonna do some more videos, hopefully during Vlogmas, about working life and what's working for me now. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, or any video requests, just let me know. But thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.